Welcome to Optimal Game State. Today I'm doing a bit of a hobby video. I'm always hobbying in the background, but sometimes it is nice to do videos of them, especially when we've got rattling when we've got the monthly models from Games Workshop. Um, so yeah, not everyone is aware of these, but normally if you go in on the first Saturday of each month, your local GW store will probably have some models to give away for free if you ask for them. They aren't always useful. A lot of the time, they're part of a unit, and to actually render the unit, you need to buy a box. So they're just kind of a nice model to paint. What I like to do is I like to paint them. I like to drop them back into the store where they go into my cabinets and they get displayed. So I've had a pretty good run this year. I've managed to get, basically all the models that my local stores had. They didn't have the model for June though. So the model for June never actually made it to the Dublin store. Um, so I have ended up buying this box um, because one of these models is actually the multi-figure. Now, that's not too bad of a problem. I still have my Darkoath box for Warcry. I have this baby to work through. So they're going to have in the backlog. But yeah, right now, today, we are going to work on getting one of these Darkoath Marauders done, whatever it is. We're going to work on this Kroot that is part of July's box, or July's monthly figure. We're going to try to get those out of the way. So it's Saturday today. So it's about 2:30. I'm going to try just burst through those, try to get those done. All right, we're going to get into it. We're going to start some assembly. I'm not going to bore you with this all the way through. So I'm just going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to present it as a fait accompli. So this is the Kroot model. First thing we're going to do is we're going to compare the base size, just make sure I got the right one. Yeah. And we're going to move this space away, and we're going to be using this space instead. So that's just because the rest of my Kroot models are on the same. We're going to be going through a bit of a tidy up. So as you can see, these were all clipped, but badly glued together. Yeah, badly glued together. And yeah, we'll clip it, we'll glue it together. Should be relatively straightforward. Looks, it's quite posable, at least the head. I mean, there's nothing surprising in here. It should be straightforward to get together. Alrighty, so that's the Kroot built. He's kind of gangly. And then he's got his meat at the back, some extra ammo. And then we'll see how he goes. Gonna put him to the side for a second. And next we're gonna open up this box. Put the light on it. We're gonna open up this box and we are gonna look for her. So this is the model that was the free model. So we're gonna try replicate her as much as she is here. Yeah, and we'll do that. Yeah, may as well stick with me while we open this box, just to see what's inside. So I was tempted. I might regret this afterwards. I was tempted to get that full Darkoath army box, which is still floating around. But I said to myself, do you really want all that? 10 of these rather than 20 of them is probably what I was looking for. I do have, as we saw earlier, a lot of Slaves of Darkness to paint up. And it's more of a priority on what I can get done rather than having them. I don't need to get bargains. I just need to get through my backlog. That would be great. Okay, so let's see if we can find who we are looking for. Not sure. I might be here. I do love these models. They look great. So not really. Oh, here we are. Not really upset to have this. Okay, so we're going to be doing 10. So 85, 84. Put this shield on. We got a couple of different options of the heads. So we're going to go with the one that would have been on the model. As I said, I want to drop this back into my GW store, even though they didn't have a free model for it. Look at these. Isn't that amazing? The black with the white hair. I'm probably going to do this with the classic reds just because I like the style, but that does look epic. Um, I am midway through cutting these out, or cleaning these up, so I've just cut these out. I just want to mention that this is a kind of a good way of doing it. So as I'm cutting out the pieces, I'm placing them onto the instructions. So I'll know exactly what I have. I can make sure I've got all the right options. And yeah, it's a handy way to keep track of this. All right, and here we have her. So one thing that I don't normally see mentioned is sometimes with mold lines and things that are kind of hard to get at, you can actually just touch them with the glue. So just trying to clear this up. And because the glue melts the plastic, oh, you can't see it. And then basically because the glue melts the plastic, it yeah, it melts the mold line essentially. So it is an option. It's not something that you've got great control over, so be delicate with it. But yeah, it's another option. I am going to cover the base on this with some texture. I like to use one of these tubs. There's lots of different versions of it, but yeah, see if you can find one of the tubs because in the long term they're going to be cheaper for you than using one of GW's ones. So we're just going to apply it. You kind of some people apply it with brushes. I consider those people to be either crazy or brave. I have my favorite little sculpting tool here, which yeah, I just push the stuff around. So we're gonna do that. I'm gonna put the base on this, and then I'm gonna have some dinner, have a bit of a break, and just to let it dry for a little bit. We are then gonna sit down, and we're gonna spray these. So there are some options on this. So we're probably gonna spray them black, and then do Zenithal white, which is just a great way to start everything. I'm not gonna lie. For this one, Peachy did do a painting phase guide on how to paint Kroot. Um, and we're going to do it again. I'm laughing because I used it for my Kroot kill team, which is going to be part of, and I got like halfway through it, and I was just like, "Damn it, Peachy, this is so wrong. You made a complete mess of everything." And I have been following the guide. I hadn't got anything wrong, but it was just a part of the process. It doesn't look great. Um, it doesn't look, yeah, it doesn't look great. It looks good. It doesn't look great. But then as I kept working through it, and eventually by the time I got to the end of it, I was very, very happy with it. Um, yeah, okay, we'll get to that in a second. So I'm gonna do basic material. I'm gonna take a bit of a break, let it all dry, and maybe open my window so the fumes will get out, and I won't accidentally kill myself. All right, check in later. Okay, so we have gotten the undercutting done. So we've assembled. Here you can probably see we're doing that classic undercoated black. Do I do undercoated? Yeah. And then Zenith will highlight it white. Now, people always say or do the white from the top down. That's not entirely true. You kind of want to get the white all over, but you just want to get more of the white on the top side. So when you are, especially with the skin, so she has a skin, and if I didn't, and I think maybe I didn't underneath there, if when you put a contrast skin over it, what you'll find is the darks will be still very dark, so the color, the tinting won't really pick up on it. So what you kind of need is you kind of need to kind of a light white underneath there, and then brighter all the way up. Now you do that in this case. I'm using an airbrush, so I'm just slowly building up the layers of white till I get kind of where I want it to. Is it? Yeah, you can kind of see underneath. Oh no, you can't. You can kind of see underneath her there. It's a bit darker. So, the flesh, if there was flesh down there, we wouldn't get that kind of fleshy color as much. Not much of a problem, but just something to be aware of. I have done other, which were they? It was from the original Warcry box. So it was the Iron Golems versus the Untamed Beasts. And when I did that, my Untamed Beasts ended up very, I want to kind of say regular, just like the skin goes really dark and doesn't have really the color and tinting, to a proper light skin shade. I didn't go back and rework them. Um, you know, they're fine. But I have done other skins later where I've just said, no, that's not good enough. I'm just going to go over and then redo, starting from cork and building way up. So that's this. I'm not sure if I'll do much more. I'll try a little bit. So it's 8 o'clock. I'm kind of faffing around watching TV. And then this is the Kroot. We did the exact same with the Kroot, except we also got a Death Guard. Yeah, Death Guard green. And again, I do have an airbrush, so I use the airbrush. But it is something that you can get a spray for. And yeah, Color Forge. Color Forge is over here in Ireland at the moment. So Broadsword Wargaming and Hero Hobbies managed to get their hands on it. And I believe there is an equivalent in there for that. So seems like a good range. But yeah, you can't get it outside of Ireland and the UK currently, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, there was at least a Death Guard green spray from Games Workshop, and I'm going to be working on the same guide that Peachy had on the painting phase. So we're going to start with this, and again, I did there is a little bit of variation. It's not really evident anymore, but there is a little bit of variation with the blacks and whites underneath, and then the that green getting sprayed over it. I believe the next step, but I'll have to double check, is to dry brush with this Nurgling green, which is going to give me a yeah, it's going to be highlight on the edges basically, and then it's just a way to build it up. And then once we kind of nail that skin, I think he used one of the green washes. Don't know if I have. Check where it is. I must have one somewhere around. So it's a relatively straightforward. The guide itself was like a 15-minute, just like bang, 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 get through those Kroot pretty fast. We'll do base silver, do details silver. We've got to do the meat somehow. Not quite sure how we're going to do that. And what we might try to do is we might try to do a little bit of a pattern on this. So we didn't see it with the Kroot Kill Team, but the recent Kroot release, they have had kind of diagonal and patterns on them that are quite cool. So what we might do is we might do something in red with that. And then, yeah, as I mentioned before, there's lots of different colors you can do with this. So we were looking at, yeah, we were looking at these ones here. So I thought that was very, very cool. That black going to a blue. And yeah, as I said before, Darcy did a nice green one. But we're just going to go for a standard red because we are going to tie this into a larger Slaves to Darkness army. So we'll see how that goes. All right, I'm going to skip ahead and we see where we go from here. All right, I spoke too soon. It wasn't, what was I looking at? It wasn't Nurgling green. It was actually Iron Rack skin. So we're going to do a bit of dry brushing with this. So we're not using a palette because we're just dry brushing. And I want to highlight, I think I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, but I have really enjoyed this. So I picked this up off of Amazon. It is available in the US Amazon. It's also available in UK Amazon again. It wasn't quite recently, but it's back again. It does have one of these fancy little moistening tabs, which everyone seems to rave about. Just to get a little bit of wetness onto the brush. And then it's got some very, very nice dry brushes. Now, I do have a separate set of dry brushes. Okay, so these are Army Painter ones I got. And they're fine. They're grand. Well, no, they're not actually. Let me show you what. This is why. They're very, very small. That makes them very, very stiff, which, might be good for some purposes. These ones are longer and a little bit more flexible. Now, I know that when you get them initially, you will get some hairs falling out, but they're relatively good price. And yeah, they seem to be good. So I'm just going to go ahead and we're going to pick maybe this baby and we're going to dry brush here with this. So moistness, apparently. I don't know. And then the other one actually is less useful, I think, but it is a clean soap. Recommendation, if you haven't, is to get yourself one of these. They're relatively cheap, relatively easy to get, and there's tons of it. It's just the standard soap for doing the standard things. All right, I'm gonna get working on this, and yeah, I'm gonna cut here. I'm just going to be dry brushing it. There's nothing particularly exciting. It is actually going to be a little bit of a heavy dry brush, or what would you call it? An overbrush. People call it an overbrush. Um, but yeah, I'll show you once we're finished. So we've finished that dry brushing. Hopefully you can eventually see. There we go. It is pretty heavy. And it is all over. It's not just the skin, although the skin is what we're mostly important at. I'm not worried about this, the gun, because we're going to do that all in silver. But the idea here is Peachy's a little bit of... Peachy is very good at army painting. And what he's done for this particular scheme is he's got the entire model in a single undercoat, then the entire model in a single dry brush, and then we're going to wash the entire model. And that's before he then goes into any other details. There's two main concepts here. The one that he likes to go from, I gather, is the whatever the most of the model is. So at the end of this, after we do our wash, I have to admit, I'll talk about this later, but I don't really like how it looks after the wash. But after the wash, we are going to have the skin basically finished. At least for the basic step. There is a little bit more to neat it up, tidy it up, but we'll get to that later. The other approach is to go in and out. So do the bits that are on the inside first. So if you have a situation where you are going to be painting two different colors, so say the skin and the armor, and if you're doing whatever's on the inside, it's the hardest to get first. That way it's a little bit easier to do the outside. Do I have another example of that? I don't think I do. But yeah, that's the general concept of it. So here, yeah, whatever. Anyway, so you either do in and out, or you do whatever is most. The other thing I want to do here is I wanted to actually clean this brush, because even though we're looking at a dry brush, I'm not looking at our fancy, Winsor Newton or what is it I'm actually using at the moment? These are the three brushes that have my attention at the moment. One is a basic Citadel. This one has kept a nice tip. So it's just one synthetic brush. This is one of my... Yeah, you're still good, you're still good. This is a very old Series 7 that's not got a great point anymore, but still doing good. And yeah, that's another... yeah, again, so these are old ones that I'm using, but this is my proper brush, I guess you could say. So this is a Rosemary and Klinsky. Rosemary and... what is it called? Rosemary and Co. Klinsky Sable. Yeah, this is... I got these like about 6 months ago, and they've been very good to me so far. I have a few of them. So this is the proper one. Then these are two. It's kind of old and battered that will do stuff like contrast and metallics at this stage. Or actually, yeah, I'll probably do with the synthetic for most of that. Anyway, we're getting off track. The point here is take care of your brushes, regardless. Like even your synthetics, give them a bit of love, give them a bit of attention. And just try work out work any of the paint out of it, so when you put it away to dry, it's going to be okay. And that's just going to keep things lasting longer. You're paying good money for these. Although I will say, I think it's like $30 for that set, which I don't know. I haven't painted with the Artist Opus brushes, but these look a lot like them. So maybe it's maybe they are better quality, but right now these ones are getting the job done for me. Okay, that's all I want to say here. I'm going to get back to this. So the next step here is to do a Poxwalker wash. And yeah, as I said, I'll show you at the end of it, because I don't like it. Right. All right, here we are again. So we've done that Poxwalker over it, and this is the stage that I actually am not too much of a fan of. Um, I did take extra care to make sure it's in pool. But so yeah, we're going to keep working through this. It also does a little thing where it ends up quite shiny, which I don't like. Now, we will, in a later stage, be going back over it, and we'll be working back at that skin tone, layering on some lighter shades just to make it look a little bit better. So, at that part of the stage, I wasn't happy. At this part of the stage, I'm not entirely happy, but once it gets over to here, I quite like it a lot. One of the things I didn't do yet with these, but now I'm working on this extra one. I will take the time to do it. As you can see, the skin is still quite shiny. I actually do want to go back in and use a spot varnish. So we're just going to take a matte varnish, not a spray. That's just like just a just paint, matte varnish paint, whatever you call it. And we're going to specifically go in and we're just going to do the skin. So we're going to end up leaving like the metallics shiny, and anything else. Maybe the quills. The quills probably would make sense shiny. And yeah, we'll keep working away at that. So I am going to break with Peachy's plan slightly. Um, this has had a little bit of time to dry, and he finishes it out to kind of a battle ready, and then he goes back and he does a little bit more. And I did tidy this away and I did clean the brush, so I probably should have paid more attention to what was happening. But what we're going to do here is to work with the skin. We're going to give it one more dry brush with the iron rack like we did before, which I guess is going to give us multiple kind of layers. So we would have had the initial skin, we then would have had a highlight. Then when we wash that, that gives it variation. So the darkest will be the Poxwalker. Then you'll have a lighter one, which will be kind of or dark one, which will be the original Death World tinted with the Poxwalker, and then it'll slowly build up depending on the layers of kind of Anyway, we're gonna add this. So we're gonna do a quick dry brush, and then we're gonna pick out some bits. So this isn't just a dry brush. It is also going to be to go back in and try pick out some particular details if needed. If needed, I guess if I go too heavy on this, then we won't need to. So there is a later wash that goes all over everything. All right, I didn't get as much done there as I was kind of hoping I would, but I suspect I'll be going back over when we do the skin wash, or the null oil wash. So this is, we just kind of want to get it to match this, just because I've done this already here. All right, next two steps, again, I'm going to skip through them relatively straightforward. We're going to take some Black Legion, and we are going to do this shirt that he kind of has. So it kind of goes up. How far? Is it even on his back? No, it's not on his back. It's this here. This bit here, and then the lower part there, and then across here. So it's kind of a bit of a harness. And then we're going to go back in, and then we're going to do a few of the leather bits. So leather is going to be this belt here. We'll do all of that belt. And oh yeah, sorry. And so the leather's going to be doing with the Gagrax sewer. We're also going to do the quills. So those are those ones, and the ones on the legs as well, and the general body. And we're also going to do the end claws on the legs, on the feet, and here in the black. All right, we're coming along. So we've got that green and that what? We've got that brown Garak sewer on all the letters, and we've got that black on the tunic. Next step we're going to do is we're going to take a silver. So this is Vallejo metal colored steel. Let's see the equivalent, I guess, of lead belcher. I'll probably cover this in a moment. So I'm just going to work my way through that. We're just going to hold the weapon, blades, knives, bits and pieces here and there. So there's lots of different chunks. We'll get to that. Oh, I may as well while I'm at it. Can we see on this? Yeah, you can see we've done these panels in a white. So it's start with a grey sear, and then we're going to edge it in white. So that is the only panel that we have on this is that shoulder. So we're going to do that grey before you get back to you. Okay, what was I doing? Silver. That was the silver done. I also went in and used some Zandri on this wrapping here, and then on the kind of can I get parts of the gun that would have been wood or bone or whatever. The non-metal parts. I probably should go back and do the same there. I'm need to work out what I'm gonna do with the flesh. I guess I could see if I can find like a nice pink or something for it, and then just do it as a big blob. So yeah, let's go. Oh, and then yeah, we got that gray. Let's try get that out of the way. And then basically once we got that done, we're going to be doing an all over Nuln oil wash. Um, and then at that point, I think what I'll do is I'll leave it for nice and then come back to it the next day. I've yet to touch her, but we'll get her done tomorrow. And we'll just keep working through it. All right, there we have them. So I've just done it like there's a chunk of flesh or bone still on it. And then redid the ropes and binds, and for that I just kind of mix some colors I had on and make anything new. So yeah, I'm gonna wash him, and then we're gonna do for tonight. So I'll see you in the morning. All right. Next day, I did at the end of the day last night, just pick out some Gulmon flesh contrast to get some of the flesh bits started. So I'm going to keep working from there. We are going to do contrast flesh tears red, and we're going to do the boob top. We're going to do the thing in between the legs, whatever that's called. Then I think we were probably going to do the pants black. We might do it a grey instead, we'll see. And then we're going to do some of the leather in Gargrak's sewer. And I think the rest gets, like the boots are going to get a wildwood. I'm pretty sure that's what we did for the other. That's what we did for the proper Slaves of Darkness, the Chaos Warriors. Just want to try to keep them consistent. For this guy, he's basically done. I do need to pick something out in the eyes. I would like to do some detail on that. Maybe just do a zigzag pattern or something in red. I feel like I should be doing another green wash of some other kind. I don't really like the Poxwalker, but maybe something else. And then you can see on this guy the snoot gets a few washes of like an Agrax brown, just to kind of it kind of gives it a double look. But the idea is that there's a beak there. It just kind of gives the beak a little roughness. Yeah, so I haven't quite got it to a point where I'm happy with it. Like it's good, it's fine. Maybe it's just because it's a plainer one. Then we are going to do a rust on the base because I always think that's a good look. And to do that, we will actually use that fancy effect rust. We'll do a slight dry brush over it. Then we'll do black. So I mean, he's kind of finished. We're not doing anything particularly complicated with him, so he's gonna be fine. But for the time being, we're gonna leave him to the side. I'm gonna work on this lady. So we're gonna do silver, lots of places. For the metals that is not silver, I'm gonna use the Canoptic alloy. Which God, I'm not sure if they still have. Might need to double check my amount of this. I find this to be it's a very silvery kind of gold. And basically it's a great starting point to wash over with something else. So you can do some nice gold effects by starting with a silver, in this case kind of a goldy silver, and then doing a contrast over it, contrast yellow or contrast orange. I think we were using a diluted Gorgunta, which is a bit of a ready one, but that's what we've been using, and then we highlight over there. Anyway, we're talking, we should be painting. Be back in a sec. All right, where are we at? So it looks like I've done tons on her. I guess I have, but it's all base coats. So yeah, we painted the red, which was my favorite red of all. Where do we have it? Just the Flesh Tears contrast. Then it was Black Templar for the legs, although what we're probably going to do is we're probably going to light up to more of a grey. We did wildwood on boots and I did leather straps. Then we did silver wherever we could. Gore Grunter was the hair. I did a little bit of a Griff Charger grey, which is kind of a bluey contrast on the stone, the symbol. The little bird skull got a skeleton horde contrast, although it'll definitely need a little bit more work. All the silvers got, I don't know, it's a steel, you know, a metal, uh, and some of the bronzy gold bits I did in the Canoptic Ally. So well, that's really not brass. That was something else. And what I am going to do at this stage, I'm just going to wash it all, I think, in an Agrax just to dirty it up, and then we're going to move on to doing a bunch of highlights. Uh, over here, said I was complaining about the green. What I actually ended up doing, is that closer? Well, probably, I'm not sure. I can't remember what I did. I think I did something else. But anyway, I gave it a quick wash, the Militarum. So it was 50-50 Militarum contrast. And I'm a little bit happier with the green there. I do need to do something with the eyes. And yeah, actually, while I'm thinking of it, I do need to do something with that. With the beak. So the beak, I'm just gonna Agrax it a few times. And yeah, gonna drop a bit of Agrax on her. And then we're moving over to the bit where we're going to be doing the highlights. And we're going to be doing a lot of edges. So that's a wash applied. So it's just a diluted Agrax all across everything. Although I've been trying to avoid skin and a little bit of a heavier workout on the base. Letting it dry. We're gonna do some Ryza Rust. No, not Ryza Rust. We're gonna use a Dirty Down. It's the other way of doing Rust. And we're just gonna apply it straight on here. We're gonna mess it up with some water. So one of the things about this one, if you listen, there's a ball in there, but the ball has gotten stuck because the sediment at the bottom. Can you hear it now? Okay, this one's almost empty. But basically, the trick here is you want to make sure you get that ball free, and you want to shake it up real good. So I'm gonna keep recording. We're gonna keep doing this, but I'm gonna cut the audio out so you don't. I'm gonna cut the audio out so you don't get to hear the hairdryer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this hairdryer, and we're gonna put this onto the base of the Kroot. We're gonna smush it around with a bit of water, so there's gonna be dabs, water, and then we're gonna on low heat because we don't want to melt the model. We're gonna try activate it. Now it does suggest heating the bottle slightly, warming it up, and the base before you apply them all. Basically, for whatever reason, heating it just makes it work better. And I know there's not a crazy amount going on here, but you just kind of get some interesting variations in the yellows and browns. All right, let's keep doing that. All right, so we do I have more light? Too much light? Yeah, that's better. All right, so we did a wash on her. What we're going to do now is we're going to do a little bit of a Necron compound. So we're just going to dry brush a bright silver, and then we'll pick out some of the details doing the same on that. Okay, so we'll put this over to the side. What we are going to do is we're going to take actually, Agrax Dunes is a good one for doing over golds. That's one to mention. But what we have been doing for these, we've been using Gorgrot to thin down slightly. Back here. 50-50 with contrast, basically. And we're not going to be spot doing this, so we probably going to want to use one of our better brushes. The reason you don't want to use contrast with your better brushes is because the contrast has this kind of wicking action, which is to say it pulls itself up because it's so thin. So basically you can get a situation where it could go into the ferrule if you don't go too, if you're not careful, and if you're not familiar. So basically this bit here is the ferrule, and what would happen is the bristles, the hairs of the brush go back down to about here. If you get paint underneath, and I think there's probably some in this one because it's not great, it'll expand on the outside here, and it'll cause problems for actually, it'll, yeah, so that split is probably caused by one, and basically it makes them split. They don't have the nice finish. So we're going to take one of my old good ones, and we're going to be quite delicate. Now actually when we're mixing this up, we're going to mix it with a different brush. We don't need to risk. And I was just dry brushing a metal, so I'm just going to finish cleaning this one off. So another thing you want to do is see the sediment's got metal particles in it. You want to avoid that at all costs. You do not want your nice brushes getting those metal bits in them. So this is why I've got separate. I'll wash this out. If I was smarter, I would have two of these, and I would do one for metal, one for non-metal. But you know, I'm not, so we're okay. So we're just gonna paint this over the parts that we want to be gold. And what you basically will end up doing is you kind of want to get the darker parts of it down below. But it ends up with quite a nice color to it. Let's see if we can get it on the belt buckle. So you do have a certain amount of control over where it's going to end up, and you're able to do it. And we will be going back over it with a highlight. So don't worry too much if it doesn't, if it ends up a little bit too dark. This is something that you could apply multiple times. So if you wanted, you could just keep going back and just doing like the bottom half of this shield pommel. I think it's wrong. So at this point, we have got everything done, apart from doing the highlighting. So one of the things I was talking about before was going in and out, or going the kind of the greater spaces. So in this case, the flesh would typically be the kind of lowest point. If you think about it, between the arms, you've got the flesh, and then the metal's kind of up a little bit, so the metal's kind of easier to get at. Similarly, if I'm looking here, there's kind of gaps between the pants and the crop top. I don't know what you call it. So if we try to get that flesh done, we are going to bounce off the other sides, but then when we do the highlights on those, we'll be able to go over that flesh, and it will be less likely because it is raised, so it'll be easier to paint. So think about that. And then similarly, this belt is going to be kind of a next layer up, because if we get this, because it's raised, and that's just kind of makes things a little bit easier for you. Alrighty, so we're going to start doing the flesh colors on this Darkoath Marauder. So with the initial base, which was, just white and then a golden white contrast, it has ended up quite dark, possibly because in some cases I did end up doing a double contrast on it, just to kind of get the coverage I was looking for. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking one of the paints, so this is cork, and we're going to slowly layer up. So the idea is never to actually fully cover, in theory. You don't want to, we will want some of this dark color showing through at some points. And then, there's a variety of different skin colors that we're going to build up through. Now, I've got a ton of them here. This is ridiculous and crazy. I don't need to go all the way through. So what I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably end up just using these three. You don't need a ton of flesh colors. Like, once we get these out, we can mix between them to get the transitions a little bit easier. And the idea is that only the very tips of the skin, only the highest parts of the skin. Sometimes people like going in with some sort of winey red. Yeah, actually, this is specifically wine red. But sometimes a glaze of this in places can work quite well. So we might have a look at that. Yeah, and yeah, just while I have you, I just want to show what I mean. So we'll give this a bit of a shake. When we're talking about the flesh colors, when you actually paint with them, there's a couple of different ways you can do it. Okay, so we're gonna get a little bit of paint on brush. So when it's like this, you're probably going to get a good coverage. So wherever you paint over it, it's going to paint over it quite well. But if we add more water, when we do it like this, it's maybe a bit much, but when we get it into a kind of a watery consistency, it is going to end up translucent. So it'll kind of tint the skin underneath it. And what you're probably going to end up doing is using something like this in progressive layers. So you'll do a little bit of it, and then you'll, can we see? So we'll end up doing, I got a bit of silver there as well. We'll end up doing a little bit of this. It won't have great coverage, but you'll get a bit of a color down on it. And then what you'll end up doing is you'll let it dry, you'll come back and you'll do it again. And if you keep doing that, what you'll end up with is a kind of a smooth transition, I guess is what all the cool kids call it. But you'll end up with, bits of it showing through, and then you'll have a little bit more control over where you do it. Because basically, if you paint down your layer once, then it'll kind of tint the darker layer you have underneath it. If you paint it twice, it'll get a little lighter. If you paint it 3 times, so you will be able to kind of control and kind of get variations between the colors. So even though we're in this case only going to paint with 3 paints really, and in the base, we are going to end up with lots of kind of variations on shade and color going through, because we're going to be using it very, very thin. We're going to be very, very patient. And I do say letting it dry, but I mean, the reality is you've got enough work that needs to get done that you will end up kind of painting something and then letting it dry and then moving on. Another thing to note here is that you tend to drag the paint around. So wherever you're pushing the paint to will tend to be the point that has the most amount of saturation and color on it. So kind of think about that. Oh, and then one last thing, and then I'll stop bothering you, is that the most natural stroke is this, down. That's what the hand wants to do. You have the most control, you have the most accuracy with that. So don't be afraid to turn your model upside down and completely mess with things, because that's the kind of, that will give you the best control if you're able to just do that downward stroke. All right, so I'm going to keep doing that. I'm just going to plug away at it, and then yeah, you'll probably end up coming back and we'll see 2 extra blobs and then a bit of a mess everywhere. All right, so let's get working. All right, and here we are. We're going to stop here. So I actually didn't go too far. I ended up just using the 2 paints, but as you can see, I've got some transition between it, and I did glaze that paint out quite a lot, so I could get multiple layers of it. There's a little bit of red, just to, I didn't end up messing with the skin tone for it, which is something you can do, but what I did was I just put a little bit in the mouth, barely make out, and then I did do the eyes. So the eyes were just, we already had quite a dark entry in there, so I was able to just do the line of white across, and then in the middle the line down. So you're not actually trying to do a dot, you're trying to get a line. And yeah, it worked out okay. All right, so we have the skin tone done. The next thing I'm going to try do is I am going to try look at the red. Now, one of the nice things about, one of the things that you should be thinking about when you're putting your paint collection together is basically, I guess, triads or collections of paints in which work well together. So this is corn red, Mephiston red, That is Evil Sun Scarlet. That is Wild Rider Red, and that is Fire Dragon Red. It doesn't really matter. These are all GW paints in this case, but there's a clear, color transition going on here. And depending on what kind of color I want, I can, uh, build up from one to the other. So in this case, I'll probably end up doing, and obviously because we've got this color in, it's got contrast, it's got washes over, so it's quite dark. So we're starting off from quite a dark base. So I'll probably start by, will I build up? I'll probably build up with some corn red. We'll definitely try to do Mephisto on red, and then what we could do is we might even skip that, and we might just build up the final layer, the Wall Rider. Sometimes tippy tips, can work well, so we might put in that Fire Dragon red for that. So that's what we're going to do, and we're just going to build up that red. Now, as we have done the flesh already, and the red is over the flesh, the chance of us, screwing that up is less. Not zero, but less. All right, and there we are. So, yeah, we ended up using all four, and nice bit of an effect there. Oh yeah, like it is just a standard, go lighter as you go. But yeah, my point that I was trying to make earlier was it is really good knowing what your collections are. GW don't do it. Well, do they? No, I'm gonna say they don't. But putting things in triads is really good. So Army Painter started doing it, and then I guess the place where we first properly saw it was with the Two Thin Coats range. But both sets reportedly are excellent. In that you had the triples, so like you might get these three paints, switch us around, and then if you painted this as your shadow, this is your mid-tone, this is your highlight, then it would look great. Um, you aren't necessarily going to get that for everything, but I personally have found when I know what my triad, and maybe there's 4 or 5 in that particular grouping, is, I'm far more likely to use those paints than I am any other, because I really want to go, I want to paint red. What colors do I do with paint red? And then those ones in this particular set get used a lot more than anything else in my collection. So think about that. All right, what are we going to do next? We're probably going to work on the leather, and I mean, she's kind of close to done, isn't she? I think we need to do a little bit more on the shield. I think the fact that it looks kind of even throughout, what we might end up doing is we might do some multiple layers down below. Sorry, we might get a shade wash and just wash underneath, let it dry, wash underneath, let it dry. And then what we'll end up with is the bottom side darker and the top side lighter. I think I will. I'm going to take one of the Silicon contrasts. So that's one of the dark grays. And I am going to use this to wash over the steel, the metals here. I want to get it closer to a black. I just kind of feel like um, I feel like that's what she'd be doing. She'd be trying to emulate the Slaves to Darkness warriors, and we might see how that works out for that. Okay, a little bit more progress. So we're just going in. So the metallics got a little bit of a highlight. I did do that first. Maybe it's the only, but I did do a silicon contrast over some of the metals that have been darkened down a little bit. Yeah, pants, leathers have had at least one highlight. In this case, they're just one highlight. And actually, that's the point. Some of the things that aren't as word salient, as obvious, as kind of notable, you don't need to do as many highlights as everywhere else. Like those pants, no one's going to look at those pants in great detail. They're far more likely to look at the face, or maybe that red tabard. Are we finding that word? We're not finding that word. What I want to do for this is the eyes do need to have a tiny bit of color underneath them. It's the Sigvald Burgundy. That's just the way we ended up doing them. It's as per Peachy's guide, so it's just like a little bit in there, and then that's it. And then we're done with the eyes and that. What I want to do, and I didn't do it with these, so you can see, these guys came out before the new Kroot box came out, and during that Kroot box, they started doing some really cool patterns. So we're going to try copy one of the patterns. Alrighty, here we are again. So we're making good progress. I think we're close to being done. So you can see I did a pattern. This is my third attempt at a pattern. The first one I did ended up looking like an anchor, which I didn't like. So then I painted over parts of that and redid it. And then the next one I did looked like a smiley face. So that didn't work. And then this one is like a couple of goes. It's fine. It's grand. Yeah, so there is a Warhammer community article that I think does have some really cool patterns. It's a very cool idea. I haven't quite got it. But I think, yeah, one of the points to pull out of this is try it, paint over it. Try it, paint over it. Try it, paint over it. In this case, try it one more time. Okay, so that's that. I did do the eyes. So the eyes are Sigval Burgundy, just as a line underneath the eye, and then I've dotted it with white. I can't remember what I dotted the other guys with. This one doesn't have it, so yeah. Oh, and then that's supposed to be white armor. And the reason I was doing white armor is because I feel like the white armor kind of looks like it's kind of Tau-ish, and there are other larger pieces. Like the armor plate on this guy kind of looks like it's maybe Tau tech that they've salvaged. So I like the idea of it being white and fancy. And yeah, and basically you do it in a whitish gray, grayish white, and then you you edge highlight it with an actual white, and then you get something that looks a bit like white. In this case, it's probably a bit more gray, but it is highlighted with a white edge. So um, yeah, we're happy enough with it. So what are we doing with this? I think we're good. I think we're good on this one. All right, we're continuing to make progress. No changes on him. For her, what did we do? So we did the silver. So we've gotten it a little bit shinier in spots. You can see. We went to the trouble of tracing this out, which might have been a bit excessive. We probably put enough wash over it. Did we do anything else? What else did we talk about? I did a silver on him too. Did we put anything? Brown. Why did we put brown down? Hair. We did her hair. Yes. Okay. We used Mortifying Brown, and we made her hair pop a little bit more. So yeah, we're happy with that. It looks cool. I will. So I have as you can see, the darker part down near the end, and then we've kind of cut the corners to shiny the edges. We'll probably go up and put a little bit more of that. One of the nice things that I saw on the Warhammer one was this section here. They'd done a little bit of a green tint in it, a little bit of a verdigris. So we're going to go back to, what are these called? Dirty Down. So this is a Dirty Down verdigris. Yeah, that's basically it. What we'll do is we'll give a light covering of the Canoptic Ally over it. So it's just a kind of a tiny green hint. I mean, not sure if it's necessarily worth using the proper verdigris on it. Maybe we should have just been doing like a mild green wash to kind of get that same effect. But you know, it was something fun. It was something cool. So right, so we did that. We've done a quick dry brush on just something light that we had. So the base that I always use is Darkoath from Bleho. I just really like it. And it doesn't really matter what I'm going to put over it. In this case, I just grabbed Ushapti. No, it's not Ushapti. It's whatever the one before Ushapti is. The list. And yeah, just try and brush it over quickly. We're actually going to play with Valhalla. So this is a technical Valhalla Blizzard. Thought I had one was already open somewhere around, but obviously not. So we're just going to give it a shake. Not sure if it's necessarily needed. Oh, that's a fresh one. Just one fresh one too. Okay, so it just a big pile. Okay, let me see if I can get her on camera. And all we're going to do is we're just going to slap it on, basically. We're just going to slap it on with blotches. And that's it. That's it done. It's really, really, really nice. basing thing, and then it will diminish slightly as it dries, but it should still have a pretty good snow look about it. So the other thing we're going to do next is we're going to do black around the rims for both of them. That's what's done. So yeah, thank you for chilling with me across these 2 days. And I'll probably do the varnish that I've been talking about on him. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll just get these ready. We'll put them away. I might try to get some shots for at the end, put up on Instagram. And we will drop them into Games Workshop Dublin tomorrow at some point. So if you're local, you can wander in. And so far, I should have one model for every monthly all the way through. And this is July, so that should be 7. There should be 7 models I painted in the GW store at the moment, which I think is quite cool. And obviously we're trying to make them as pretty as possible, and then when people come in, they hopefully look at it and they go, holy shit, Warhammer's cool. I think I want to do Warhammer. And yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Each week I put up a new video talking about one of Games Workshop's specialist games. The goal is always to try and make the best possible 2-player experience. If this is something you'd find interesting, please subscribe to the channel and comment to let me know what you'd like to see in future.